And we are live with the SideQuest, your favorite video game podcast of the week, of the year, of the decade. I am Dolly Domovsky, co-host of the SideQuest, SideQuesting's one and only podcast du jour, which means side podcast of the day, which is kind of amazing. I'm joined by Aaron Kelly.
Hey, what's up? I was Leslie Benzies, by the way.
That's the name you were looking for. We're trying to figure out who the Rockstar dev was in a separate.
He was the boss of Rockstar North.
The boss of Rockstar North. Also joining us is Sam Dixon, making his return. Actually,
hello, friends. Yes, I missed last week. Things get busy around here, especially during the fall. So
we had a nice intimate show last week.
Yeah, just the two of us. We thought it was going to be short and ended up being quite long.
Just the two of us.
Well, that's good. I'm glad the two of you locked in a room together can at least keep each other occupied.
Yeah, we bonded quite well. Oh, good. We actually have one viewer, too. Hey, viewer, how's it going? Oh, that's Aaron, I think. Is that you, Aaron, just viewing the...
No, it's not me yet. I haven't clicked it yet.
Okay. Good.
I bet it's
probably Tom.
Yeah. I might as well retweet it as well. Good times, everybody. We're going to have a good show. We are going to talk about some fun games that we've been playing. Sam has been gone for a week or so, and now he's back, and he actually has a few games to talk about.
Yes, I have games to talk about and problems to talk about. It's like a normal
Here we go. Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. I have few gaming things to talk about, but I can chime in on one game, and maybe one of Sam's games as well. I don't know about you, Aaron, how many games you have to talk about?
I've got half of one.
Half of one, perfect.
It ties into the news thing.
All right, and then we'll get into some news. Since you're back, Sam, tell us what you've been playing.
When I texted you earlier, I was like, "Oh, I have 2.5 games to talk about." Turns out I really have like 3.5 to talk about. So we got one more. First, let's start with why there's only half of one to talk about as opposed to a full one. So our friends over at Calypso sent us copies of Shadows Awakening. A PC game that's like an isometric RPG. Kind of plays a lot like Diablo. It's mainly like story focused, other than like combat and loot focused. Kind of like a choose your own adventure book that occasionally has some combat in it. Does have a cool combat system. You're like a demon that's like hanging out in the shadow realm or whatever. But then you have 3. I forget what they refer to them as. He keeps referring to them as puppets. So like 3 people in like the actual world, and you switch between those characters. And right now I have one that's a mage and one that's an archer. And then this like dark spirit world or whatever, there's certain points of dungeons and different levels where like maybe the walkway is collapsed, but in the spirit world, it's perfectly fine. He can just walk across and like certain walls and doors and stuff. But I've been digging into that game. I'm probably about like 3 or 4 hours in now. But I haven't gotten a lot into it because I've been getting a lot of blue screens recently. And that game seems to be victim to almost all of them. I went through, PC gaming
almost
is so
all
great.
Of the blue screens?
Yeah, it's not that game's causing them. It's just that they seem to be prevalent whenever I'm playing that game. So like I had an issue where one of my USB ports, I guess, was getting too much power or wasn't getting enough power. So that was causing blue screens. Figured that problem out, fixed it. Everything's fine. Then I was getting another driver where I thought the USB hub that's built into my monitor was causing issues. Turns out it was a bad USB cable. Took care of that. Fine. And so I had all these driver issues that were causing blue screens and everything. And then finally yesterday, I figured out what may have been causing my last blue screen. And it was because Shadowplay from NVIDIA, for some reason, decided that it should ignore my desired place where I want files to be stored, and instead stored them on the hard drive that I was playing games off of. So every time I went to record footage, it was causing too much communication between that hard drive and causing my machine to blue screen. Thank you, Forza Horizon 4, for figuring out that problem without blue screening, but causing my game to stutter and telling me what the problem was. So thank you, Forza, for fixing that problem for me. So I fixed that problem last night and was able to play shadows for more than 20 minutes without it blue screening on me. So I'm hoping to dig into that game more. But it's good so far. It definitely feels like if you like Diablo, it might not be a good game for you, only because it's more focused on story and less about combat and loot grinding and stuff like that. But there are 3 different stories, so even when you beat the game, you can go back and play new areas and learn more aspects about this world. And it has a pretty interesting story so far, so I'm looking forward to digging into that a little bit. But to continue on my PC train, another game that was giving me problems, blue screening, was Valkyria Chronicles 4.
Oh my goodness. You got the review code for this, right?
Yes, I did. I happened, well, I technically got the code the day it came out on
Yeah.
PC, but it got sent to my spam folder, so I only really saw it like a week ago. Yeah, hey, if you review games, please check your spam folders, because I would say about once every other month I get a game sent to me that's like in that spam folder. And it's like, hey, don't worry about embargo. You can release things anytime. I'm like, well, how about 2 months after the game came out? Because that's when I've seen this code. Yeah, so Valkyria Chronicles, a lot like all the other Valkyria Chronicles, but I actually kind of think that's to its detriment a little bit. The game is too easy for returning players, at least at the onset. Again, I've only played maybe about like 5 or 6 hours. Game's too easy for returning players. And then also like holds your hand through everything. So for like the first 2 missions, it's like, this is how you shoot. Pay attention. This is how you shoot. Next character. Now this new character is moving. Okay, I see that you want to shoot this guy. This is how you shoot. And it does that for like the first couple missions, which is kind of agonizing. And also the game looks exactly like it did on PlayStation 3. I don't know if that was a choice that they just decided to do it, but that game has looked identical the entire run of that series, except for the weird PSP or Vita game that had like weird anime eyes that were like the size of actual saucers on people's faces for that one. So, and it wasn't really a mainline Valkyria Chronicles game. So if you like Valkyria Chronicles, probably hop on that. I don't know that a lot's changed, though. So if you've recently played one of these like remasters of the first one, I know it's coming to Switch, and it just came out on PS4 and Xbox and stuff like that. If you've recently played through that, maybe give it some time before you hop into 4. Again, I'm only like a couple of chapters like deep in it, but pretty similar to the past games. There was only really one scenario that made me go, okay, this was different, and this, I don't remember something like this from the previous games. So, it's one of those games that fans have been clamoring about for so long to have a new Valkyria Chronicles game, that I'm worried that instead of doing anything new, we kind of just released the Valkyria Chronicles that's just as good as the other ones, but is kind of samey if you happen to play one of those recently, and a lot of people have. So,
well, you gotta keep in mind, like 2 and 3 were dog shit, right?
Well, 2 was okay. Or whichever one was on the PSP, which didn't come out in America, that game was good. I ended up playing like an emulated version of that game that somebody had gone through and translated everything into English. So that was like that was at least as good as the original game.
2 and 3 were on the PSP.
Okay, I don't think I ever played 3, but I definitely played some of 2, and then there was the Valkyria Revolution or Revitalization or whatever game that was in between there that was on Vita and PS4. That was real bad. Wasn't a turn-based game like they are now, and was that weird like button mashy, huge anime eyes. Our friend, now I can't think of his name, Steven, did a review of that game and has some footage of that. That is like, that game is so weird. So that's Valkyria Chronicles. Let's see here. What else is on my list? So Dally, you might have been playing this game a little bit, but I've played a couple rounds of the new Mario Party game.
Yep, that hot new jam, Super Mario Party.
Yes, Super Mario Party.
That was one of the games I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I've been really enjoying it. There's every single one of those Mario parties seem to have a gimmick The last game was that weird. It's not like a normal board, and we're playing against Bowser. This game's gimmick seems to be those every character gets their own dice, and you can roll them instead of the normal like 1 through 6 dice. You might get like Waluigi's dice, where like 2 of the dice rolls are -2 coins, and then like some 3s and 4s, but one of those dice rolls might be a 10. So you kind of like take the odds there. And
yeah, you can roll the regular dice or switch to the special dice.
Yeah. The boards are laid out much smaller. So it seems to be that there's a lot more tactics you can take in that game. So being somebody like Rosalina, she has +2 coins like on her dice rolls. So you could choose to be like, okay, well, I'm going to run the risk of not moving because the board's so close that somebody on this turn is going to get to the star anyway. I could sit here and mine coins while they're getting the star, and hopefully the star comes up close to me, or I can get an item that'll help me go and get that star some way or steal a star. So it seems like they actually are giving people strategies instead of taking them away, which is like the weird like opposite of how Nintendo used to be. It's like, oh, instead of making it accessible to everybody, like that Animal Crossing game where it's like it's kind of just a crapshoot of who wins in the end. Thanks for playing. Where this Mario Party is like, no, you need to come up with a strategy and you need to stick to that strategy, but we give you options of like how to change that strategy on the fly and stuff like that. So they've almost made like a deeper Mario Party while also like going out of their way to make it more accessible to people. It's like kind of weird. You kind of have to play it to get the feel of it.
I totally played it like the way you're talking about. I was mining coins instead of like just going around the board in circles. I even found myself going to spots on the board if I knew somebody was getting close to the star in like one corner of the board. I would go to one of the other corners or the opposite side because I figured that star is going to pop up somewhere else the minute they take it. So I'll just mine coins in kind of one little area here and then make my way out to wherever the star is. And it's almost like in a weird way, it's like a Partyvania type of thing, because I did find myself just kind of making my way around the board and going back to some spots if I knew there were some things that I wanted to get. Like I think the island board is one that we've played. And there's some cool like items shops in the board that you can kind of attack and get a bunch of coins and items, some cool items with. So I farmed around there for a while, went and grabbed a couple stars, and then went back and got some more items before I headed back out. So yeah, it gives you that option to be a little bit more strategic for those of us who want to kind of play with some tactics, I guess, some strategy, or you could just play it like a regular Mario Party game.
Well, it's got allies now too, right?
Yes.
Like you can stack allies.
Yeah, I think I had like 2.
Yeah, so it's like at that point, it's like, well, you're getting 3 dice rolls all for like every time you move. Like you can fly around that board because they're so small now.
Well, and you can even use that into like strategy where like I'm guaranteed to move at least 1 or 2 like rolls with my ally. I can take the risk of my dice. I might be moving back 2 positions from my dice roll, but this one automatically negates it out, so I'll be moving forward 1 or whatever. So there's that type of stuff, but they also like really focused on like quality of life stuff in Mario Party. So it used to be when a mini game came up at the end of like a round, if you've never seen the mini game before, you're playing with people that haven't experienced Mario Party. There was always a way to go into like a practice game mode, so you could like run a simulation of what the mini game is like. So then nothing's on the line, just to see everybody understands what's going on, and then you would like go into the actual game. But that was always, you would load into the mini game menu. It would explain the mini game to you, and then you would have to hit a button to launch the demo mode. Play the demo mode. I think you could skip out of the demo mode early, but you could play the practice game, and then would have to load you back into that mini game menu, and then you would launch the mini game and play the mini.
Which was the same game all over again. Yeah. It's like playing the mini game 2 or 3 times. Yeah.
And like in theory, like, what does that matter? But that's like maybe like an extra 2 minutes onto every mini game that didn't have to be there before. So now if you're talking about like a 20-turn game, you're taking 2 minutes times 20 out of the runtime of the experience.
Yeah, so that's like 200 minutes.
Yeah, you're saving like 40 minutes just from that feature alone that instead of having to load into a practice, you are now like, as soon as you load the mini game, you can just start screwing around, and every player then confirms when they're ready on their controller to move on to the actual game.
When I used to play Mario Party 2, I think it was, on the N64, everybody who wasn't the person whose house we were at would have to put their controllers down, because we were all so into it that we'd be squeezing the controllers and we'd constantly be hitting the Z button, which was the boot into the minigame practice mode button.
Oh.
Yeah.
So everybody would put their controllers down except for the one person whose house it was, and then we'd all pick it up as the game began to load. It took so long. Somebody accidentally did it. We're all just like, oh, fucking come on.
And like now they've gotten around the thing of like, oh, well, I've accidentally launched the mini game before everybody read the description. Now we're all screwed. So it's for the one person that knows how to play it. Like now everybody has to confirm, like, I am ready to participate before the mini game launches. They've also expanded like different gameplay modes. Like last version, or the last Mario Party, was more focused on like, oh, we're going to all work together as 4 players and stuff like that. Well, now there is a mode dedicated specifically for teams. So you can play like 2v2 or whatever in a team game. They now have the, I'm going to say canyon run, but it's more like a river run. I forget what they call it. But it's a mode where everybody's on a raft and you're playing 4-player mini games together, and you're working together to achieve like a certain time or to get down a certain path of this river. Which has different gameplay options, and there's like 60 odd paths on the river that you can take different ways each time you play, so somebody can do the math and figure out how many different variations to the layout you could do. And they have like a single player mode against like single player mini games. They have that online mode. They have a couple of, it's not just a like, oh, let's choose 5 mini games and the person who wins the most wins the game. They have like a couple of different ways to play mini games, which they've had in past Mario parties. So there's a lot of different ways to play the game. And I think that's important for something like Mario Party. So it's not just every time, hey, let's just play a board game. Hey, let's just play mini games. There's actual other goals and like other ways to play against and with your friends that I think Mario Party maybe hasn't been missing, but has certainly needed something like that, at least for the last couple iterations. And this feels like they took all the lessons from the last game and went, okay, the thing that was not good about the last game wasn't the mini games or wasn't this stuff. It was that we limited people too much. Let's give them as many options as possible in this one. And I think it works out great for them.
Yeah, I mean, I've also only played a couple rounds, but we're digging what we played so far. By contrast, I've been selling off a bunch of my old Wii U and PS4 and Xbox One games that I haven't been playing, and we were selling. I had Mario Party 10, and I said, you know what? Before I get rid of this one, let me fire it up so I can remember one last time what the game was like. And I remember not liking it at all. I mean, it was not a Mario. It was just so iterative. It not even evolutionary. It had gone backwards. This, on the other hand, definitely seems to. It doesn't break the mold of Mario Party at all. If you don't like Mario Party games, you're not going to like this game. But if you do like the classic Mario Party game, I think it's gone back. It's cleaned up enough of the new games that has sort of kind of soft rebooted itself back to what the series used to be, which I appreciate. So I haven't played any of the other modes. I haven't played the online like 100 game challenge mode, whatever that is. But I'll give that a shot this weekend.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good reset for Mario Party. I think if the last time you played a Mario Party or you were interested in Mario Party was on the N64, like this is the one that if you're interested to definitely jump on, because especially once you got like halfway through the GameCube versions and the Wii versions, there was all the gimmicks of like, here's the microphone, or here's everything's a Wiimote based game, and so this game can only be played with Joy-Cons. And there are some definite like motion-based mini games.
What would one of those motions be if you had to describe it?
If you're talking about milking a cow or climbing a pole, then yeah,
that's certainly one way to describe it, milking a cow.
You gotta throw yourself up on top of that pole as quick as possible. And the only way to do it is to grip and ungrip up and down as you're moving your hand violently. I just got derailed. All of the like motion control games like actually seem to work like really well. I don't know about your experience, but there was like one where you had to you had like a magnifying glass and you have to bring into focus your character. And I feel like on a Wiimote, like game would have been very hard to do because like the Wiimotes were super sensitive to just about any sort of like variations in movement. Any variation it took is like a giant sweep, where I think the Joy-Cons are better about that. And as far as like you know, like people like us, like we play games all the time, you know, we might be a little bit more dialed into the motion controls of some of these devices, where somebody like my mom, who hasn't played a game seriously since Galaga, like in arcades, like she had no problem like picking up a Joy-Con and doing the motion control games, and didn't have any issues or didn't think that they were not responding to what she was inputting into them, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the motion games yet, so surprisingly, we didn't come up across any of those. I mean, we've been playing just the regular party mode, but none of the motion games showed up in our 10 turn match.
Well, are you ready to move on from Mario Party? Okay,
let's do it.
I didn't want to jump on you unless you had something else to say. But for my last game, and what I'm going to argue, and people will very much disagree with me, but I'm going to argue this point. What is currently game of the year for me right now? Forza Horizon 4. Wow. I saved it for last because I thought maybe I'd come up with something better to say other than it's amazing into the microphone, and I'm not sure I have, but oh boy, is Forza Horizon 4 amazing. Let me start off by saying that I like open world driving games. I think that there needs to be more vehicle based games where
hold on one second. Aaron.
Yep.
I got a mini game for you, Aaron. Ready?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm trying to yawn.
You're a dick. Don't do it.
What's I'm so confused.
I hate you.
Aaron and I had a conversation. I was having a hard time yawning last week, and I kept trying to yawn during the show. And Aaron is very susceptible to yawns, even on fucking camera.
I hate you.
And so I saw him stretching for a split second while you were talking about Forza, and I'm like, I'm jumping in now.
Dude, I was on Reddit today at work. I've been awake for like 3 hours. Like I was not tired at all. And there was like a video of like, hey, look, yawning is contagious. And there was a picture. It was a video of like a cat stretching, and then the cat and yawns, and then the next cat after a few seconds yawns. And I just started yawning. I was like, fuck.
Anyways, back to Forza. Sorry about that. We're not yawning about Forza.
I'm yawning about Forza, but go on.
Oh man,
Forza. Go ahead.
You should get Forza. I always talk about there needing to be open world like adventure, like vehicle based games. I'll see you next week, Starlink. Forza is obviously focused on racing. What you're doing is racing in that game. No matter what activity you think you're doing in that game, you're racing. You're playing capture the flag. No, you're racing the flag to the circle. So there's like everything's based on racing. So if you don't like driving cars, you don't like racing. Obviously, Forza is not for you. But the Forza Horizon series has been like low key the best Microsoft exclusive for a while. And Horizon 4 basically just blows the doors off of everything that they've been doing for a while. And the big system in this game is the changing of the seasons. So every week, I think it's like every like 7.5 days, the season rotates from spring to fall, fall to winter, winter to summer. That's not how that goes at all. Winter to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall. Got it. I know I know seasons. I live in a state with seasons, which is actually one of my points. So right now, actually, I haven't logged in today, but we've changed to winter. Last week was fall, and the week the game launched, it was summer. And that game does such a good job of like recreating that map for every season. There's these things called influence boards, which are basically like free XP and stuff like that laying around the map that you just have to slam your car into. And a few of them are on top of buildings. And I remember the first time I rolled up to one that was on top of a building was like, how the hell am I supposed to get that? Like, there's no ramp here. Cut to fall and cut to like winter, because at the beginning of the game you run through all the seasons. Cut through winter, and then all of a sudden a ramp has been built out of snow to like jump off of it to get this board. So like the only time you can get that board is if you're like either stumbling across it or know to go look for it during the winter season. But if you're playing the game, once you get like fully signed into the roster and stuff like that, basically once you're done with the sort of tutorial part, it's like a couple hours long. You have to wait until like, 3 weeks until it rotates to winter or rotates to whatever season you need it to do to get up there. And it like the seasons look so good. And I forever have wanted a game that's set in Pennsylvania, just because like Pennsylvania gets all the seasons. Like my leaves are changing colors and falling outside right now. It will snow in a week. Like, I've always wanted like that type of thing. And this game is set in like sort of rural UK countryside and stuff like that. Like Edinburgh is like a city you can drive around in the game. And I don't know if England really looks like this in the fall, because obviously I live in America and have never once been to Europe. But man, that game looks so much like Pennsylvania during the fall, like driving it around, and it feels so like weirdly calming and nice to be like basically like driving from race to race or from event to event without like caring about like driving. Like I don't need to be in a Lambo. I can be in like a Model T and just kind of putz around and like look at the leaves and look at like all the scenery and stuff while I'm driving. Like that game, if you don't like driving, don't play Forza. But if you're even remotely interested in like any vehicle-based game, I don't know how you can see something like The Crew or like Need for Speed and see Forza and not think that Forza would be perfect for you. So good. It runs so incredibly well on PC. It looks amazing on PC. It looks amazing on Xbox One X, and it looks really good on just default Xbox. Digital Foundry has a great video that kind of like breaks down like all the different versions. And clearly, because this game was designed with the Xbox One X in mind, both the PC version and the normal like Xbox version both benefited from that.
Yeah.
But then allowed them to even push further on PC and Xbox X. Like there is the first time you play a night race in that game and your headlights on your car are shined onto another car, and that car's shadow is being cast onto another car that you can't even see it because it's in shadow, and you can just see like the front of it peeking out from that shadow. It looks so good. Like it's really like no video does that game justice. You kind of just need to see it running in person. It looks incredible.
It's I think the last 2 games I've bought for my Xbox One were Forza Horizon 3 and Forza 6. I actually skipped Forza 7. Forza Horizon series is the best racing game series by far. I think it's surpassed Gran Turismo, it's surpassed mainline Forza, it's surpassed Mario Kart. I mean, it is an absolute blast, and it's the Horizon games are kind of like the only like Xbox exclusives that I look forward to. So every other year we get a new one, and we didn't get a chance to play. I know you and I both wanted to play it at E3 this year. We didn't get a chance. I didn't get a chance to, because they were kind of out in their own, their own theater, and it was sort of a mess to see that. But I've been looking forward to it, and I think I'll wait for one of the Black Friday deals, which they will inevitably have for the game. But God, it looks just absolutely stunning. It looks so good. Even on my OG Xbox One, the very first generation Xbox One, the Horizon games look phenomenal, and just those tweaks that you mentioned with some of the lighting stuff and the nighttime. Oh God, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, well, and so this one is also like online and connected at all times.
Uh-huh.
First of all, you can play the game completely not being online. Like you can even set it where every time you log in, you can tell it like, hey, just don't even put me online. And technically you are on a server with 72 players at one time. But it only shows you
It's a car battle royale.
Yeah, it only shows you the 12, well, the 11 that are closest to you in level and skill. So, so like people can't, somebody that's got like, an X-rated car that's like super, the best car in the game can't drive up to you in your Honda Civic and be like, "Oh, race me, bud." Like, like that won't ever happen. Unless you're doing it with your friends. But every time you start an event, you can choose like, I would like to start this by myself. I would like to start this in co-op with a friend that I'm like partnered with or connected with, convoyed with. That's what it is. I would like to start this in PvP. I would like to start this as a rival race where the game takes a time from somebody you've raced against before in the past or somebody that's around your skill level. And is like, your last time on this race was like a 52-second lap. This person did it in 51. Like, can you beat that time? And then it gives you rewards if you can beat it or not. So there's different ways to launch everything. There's championships, which include like multiple races. And the other interesting thing is they do global events every hour on the hour. So if you're playing the game and it's 6:56, a message will pop up on your screen as long as you're not in a instanced activity. As long as you're in the open world, it was like, hey, in 4 minutes, there's a Forzathon at this location. Would you like to go there? And all you have to do is hit X, and it changes your GPS route to drive to there. And as long as you're there with like 2 minutes past the hour, 2 or 3 minutes, I'm not quite sure exactly when the cutoff is. You do this Forzathon thing, which is 3 different challenges, and based on if the group of players that responded to the Forzathon can complete them, you get like a currency that you can spend in like a weekly shop. So like every hour you get there, and there could be 3 activities, like this is a speed trap, so you have to go as fast as you can through it and set like a fast time, but you might go 150 miles per hour through the speed trap. Collectively, the group needs to go like 10,000 miles per hour past this speed or past this trap. So you can keep going as many times as you want, but it keeps adding your times and your group's times as you're going across it. And then depending on how many challenges you complete depends on how much Forzathon points you get. And then every season there's certain things in the shop. Like there's like a Forza car, which is like a specially tuned car by not Turn 10. Who makes the Horizon games? Playground Games.
Playground Games, yeah.
I think they have a specifically tuned car that they worked on, and it's like, for 100 or 200 points or whatever, you can buy this car that's only available in the shop for this week. So like this week's shop probably has a car that's like made focused for winter, right? So it's probably like an all-wheel drive car. Might be a car that you can use in some like the weekly challenges, which gives you more points to buy in that shop, and wheel spins for free cars or money or free vanity items for your character and stuff like that.
Can you make enough points every week to buy a car every week?
Yes. So
cool.
I believe, without looking it up, I believe the fancy Forza car every week is 300 points.
Okay.
So if you complete the weekly challenge, you get, I think it's 10 points for each challenge and then 100 points for doing all 4 of them. So that's 140 points by itself, which you can bang that out in like, a session of playing. Or like there's daily challenges that each give you, I think it's 10. And then if you do so many of those daily challenges, you get like a bonus reward for doing all of those. This Forzathon events that happen on the hour, I think, give you 30 at max. So like they give you points, and like I'm sitting currently on like 600 points, and I bought everything from the shop for last week. Like there's, you have plenty of time to get these points. And it's not like, I don't think it's one of those things where it'll be like, oh, buy it now, or, you'll never get access to it again. I think they'll probably rotate that stuff into the game somehow or another. Because very clearly, the game has shown that there is ways for them to put special events into the game, and take them out of the game. So for like limited time, like quests or something like that. And then also like, obviously for like car pass owners and stuff, they're getting 2 new cars that come into the game every week. So they can clearly keep adding cars or like rotating what's a reward for something. Like I remember playing one race and then I played it again the next day with a friend, and it had like, I think the first time I played it was like a wheel spin reward or something, but then the second time it was a car. So I'm sure they're manipulating that and changing things, and we'll see like what the community wants like going forward. So because right now there's like a Halo sponsored race in that game where it basically takes you drive a Warthog and it sort of takes over the landscape, and there's like banshees and like all types of Covenant and stuff like that, like from Halo, like running around and shooting each other while you're like driving the Warthog, and Cortana's talking to you and stuff like that. So I could see them like, let's rotate in a Gears of War one, or let's do some other things with some of our exclusives, or a Banjo Nuts and Bolts car or something like that. Or like right now, if you pre-ordered, you got access to a James Bond car pack, which is just a bunch of different James Bond cars you can drive around.
I think if they go that route where they're kind of tying it into whatever their next upcoming big releases, I think that always goes well, because Nintendo tends to do that with their games, especially the mobile games, right? They'll tie in, like I know when Mario Run was out, when Odyssey was launching, they were tying in a bunch of Mario Odyssey stuff, and the same thing with Animal Crossing has been doing that. So yeah.
So I think as of right now, I would be hard pressed to tell anybody to pick up any other driving game but Forza Horizon. It is a arcade racer that has a sim background that you can set any level of simulation to arcadiness that you want. I play with a friend who's really bad at driving games, but really likes the idea of clearing things off a checklist, and that game has a lot of checklists to clear. So he's really bad at driving games, so he's driving with like ABS on, like traction control, stability control. I think he still has his braking line on and stuff. And I'm driving, no ABS, no traction, no nothing. I still have an automatic shifter because I hate shifting on gamepads. But I have like all that stuff turned off, but we still can race together in any event in the entire game. And the game can still level the drivatars to fit the both of us. And we connect to online together to race like other people. It hasn't once pulled us into a party that has been so egregious that like he couldn't participate. Like we always had, even if I finished first and like first, second, and third were like 10 seconds ahead of everybody else, he was still, fighting for fourth with everybody else. So he was still having like a good race, even though like maybe like, it's almost like a multiple series race where there's like the big boys in front, but his race is still just as intense with all the people around his skill level behind us. So I think it does a great job of balancing that stuff. So if you and your friends are looking to play a driving game together, please make it Forza. Go buy a PC or an Xbox, and please make it Forza.
I think my only other question about this game is so we're roughly midway through October now, roughly. Do you think that this game has enough legs to stay relevant enough to stand up against Team Sonic Racing when it comes out in December?
Well, I don't know about Sonic and his pals, but I will say that technically the first week for normal players was only about 3 days long. Because people that pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition got to play like 3 days beforehand. So technically the summer season started like 3 days before the game was actually released, and then wrapped up on the Thursday after release. So let's say, 4 weeks after that game came out, we've gotten one pass through the entire season. So let's say by the end of November, we've been through each season once. There's content that's locked to each one of those seasons, different races and stuff like that. So unless you've been playing for that whole time, you still haven't experienced everything the game has to offer. There is an expansion coming in December that they haven't announced what's coming, but like the expansions from the last game were awesome. The first one was Hot Wheels, that just sent all your expensive luxury cars on a bunch of Hot Wheels tracks that were really cool. And then
that's what I'd like to do in real life one day.
Yeah. And then they had like Snow Blizzard Mountain or something like that. Obviously, that's not going to be the expansion because Blizzard Mountain has just been turned into the winter season. So there's 2 expansions for sure that are coming. And I believe they're planning on bringing some sort of like exclusive like monthly content stuff like that Halo race, but maybe not as maybe not as produced as that Halo race. So I think they're going to have a lot of stuff to keep people in mind. I guess there are some issues right now getting into ranked adventure mode, which is sort of the ranked races and like free roam, like capture the flag, like different events and stuff like that. I've played a few matches, but didn't really have trouble matchmaking. So I guess there's some troubles with that matchmaking right now. But other than that, I don't think they've really been having issues at launch, and everything's been kind of like smooth sailing, other than the like egregious problems that the Windows storefront always seems to have. So I think they've got a pretty good amount of content lined up, at least through like halfway of next year. Once you get that second piece of content drop, we'll have to see if they continue supporting it after that. But that's probably not coming until like February at the earliest.
How much is there to do per season? Like if I picked it up today, it's winter right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Would I be able to do all the winter things by the end of winter?
Yes.
So is it Destiny then? Is it this game where you do some stuff and then you put it down? And
it's weird because most of the game, I would say probably about 70% of the game is accessible during any season. So all the street races, all this type of stuff is accessible during any season. However, the course is going to be different. So like if I go to do the Rocky Road mountain race or whatever during summer, it might, there might be a couple dirt roads, but that's going to be it. But if I do it in winter, the roads are going to be wet. And then if we go off road, there's going to be a foot of snow on the ground. So like even the same race is slightly different depending on what season you run it in. Now, some of those races are obviously like this is a street course, and and now in spring it rained, like instead of it being dry, like that, so so some of them aren't like so different, but I would say about 70% is available during any season. And then there's specific races that get created or tied to like summer or winter or whatever season. So if you're this race might be available during any time, but you can only do like the seasonal championship, which is like a bunch of different races, including that race during winter. Or, right now they have like an event that's specifically for like the James Bond cars. And so there's like a James Bond car that's an all-wheel drive car that's specifically made for like winter driving. And you're supposed to use that car in that event. And that event is only like accessible during the winter time or during fall or whenever it comes up, and might be available again the next fall, but then might not be. So it's one of those of like, if you want to get like all the achievements, that stuff I believe is, coverable in the game almost at all times, other than I'm sure there's like, complete a championship in summer, complete a championship in winter, stuff like that. I think you could get a gold or platinum or whatever the equivalent is on Xbox, just 1,000 gamer score, I guess, in Forza without ever connecting online, without ever rotating seasons and stuff like that. But I'm not 100% sure on that. And there are ways, like the first like 2 or 3 hours of the game, you're going through all the seasons and you're seeing this stuff. So if you bought the game today, it might take you like a day or so to get to what the season is. But as long as you'd be willing to do like a couple of races a day, you could finish anything that's in this season right now, no problem.
Right on.
So you like it?
Yes.
You like it?
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't mention it yet, but like the only difference in difficulty level is just purely your rewards.
Okay.
So if as I said, playing with a friend who's like, making things a little bit easier on themselves, they can still get through everything and they can still finish the game on super easy mode or whatever, and manage to get all the rewards and finish the game and do whatever, no matter what. If they want the game to play like Daytona USA on the arcades, more than willing. The game's more than willing to let you do that. Or if you want to play it like Forza 7, or you want to play it like Gran Turismo Sport or something like that, game's more than willing to let you do that too. So this is the first of what I assume to be many a rant about how Forza Horizon 4 is the perfect game. And you guys can take your Octopath Traveler and shove it, because Forza Horizon 4.
Hey, listen, man, the Octopath lovers on this podcast, as of this moment right now, are outnumbered.
That's correct. Yeah.
Better than your Spider-Mans.
I'll kill you.
I don't even. I was gonna make this argument about how it's the best game. I think I can name like 4 games that definitely came out this year.
It's been a really good year for video games.
Yeah, it really has.
Like, it's been a crazily good year for video games, including the game that I've been playing. If you're done.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I'm sorry I monopolized like this entire show.
No. If you've got anything more to talk about, any other games,
if you got any more to talk about Forza, let us know.
I'll toss that segue away, but
I mean, trust me, I could write a college dissertation on Forza 4 at this point. But I will cede the floor to anybody else who has something to talk about for the next 15 minutes.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, speaking of games, incredible year for gaming. Yeah. I've been starting to dabble in old school RuneScape.
How are the drive?
Like 18 years old or something like that?
I think it's 20 years old this year. I think.
Oh boy.
I actually looked this up, and I care so little that I don't remember. But it was almost 2 decades. Came out 2001, so it's 17 years old.
Yikes.
Yeah. So no, a friend of mine plays a lot of this fucking game, and every single day it's just like in Steam. Now that since Steam updated, when you post an image link in Steam, it shows the image in the window. So where before I could get away with just not clicking a link and going, "Oh wow, oh that's great. Oh, I'm so happy for you." Now I actually see what they're talking about. And it's just screenshots of like a number with like a little picture of an axe or something. And they're like, "I'm almost at rank 99. I'm so happy." It's just like, all right, I got to fucking try this game. I got to play it. I was right not to play it. It's really old and it's really bad. But in the process of digging into the RuneScape, the game, that's a real fucked up community, you guys.
Yeah, you were saying a little bit about this.
So over the past week, I've been digging into what might have turned into a story. And then Nate Grayson for Kotaku basically did the story better than I could have.
Ripped it out from underneath your feet. He
hit every point that I had copied down, and then did even more legwork that I don't really have the clout or authority like to do. Like, he talked to like police and stuff like that in England, and it's like, if I called up the police in England, they'd be like, "Fuck off." But, so anyway, no, he just did a really good, thorough story, which you can see over at Kotaku. But basically, this whole thing blew up as far as everybody's concerned with this streamer named Gross Gore. It's a guy named Ali Larson, and he's infamous in the Twitch community. This dude is like one of those streamers who, when you hear people associated with, quote unquote drama, he's quite often at the center of it. There's a guy who a few years ago tried to raise money for charity to like buy his parents a house or something, and then tried to keep the money for himself, and then begrudgingly, I guess, gave the money to his parents to get the house, and then at the same time was trying to sell his little sister's virginity to like a rich Saudi prince donor, like, the type you hear about on Twitch. And then I guess got super pissed off that she went and slept with her own boyfriend and he didn't get a cut of any money. Like, this is the type of dude we're talking about. So this dude, there's an event in London called RuneFest. And it's a RuneScape convention. And this dude was there, and apparently he was like way hardcore sexually harassing every woman he came across. And so these accusations against him came out, and then he was like, "No, it's bullshit. They're all lying." And then videos started to come out, and like the first video was from this other RuneScape streamer who was saying like, "I had to pretend to be this other guy's boyfriend all weekend because he kept doing shit like this." And it was a video of this dude, Gross Gore, like coming up behind a girl and grabbing her head and trying to like kiss her and stuff like that, and her trying to like pushing him off and stuff. And then he came out and tried to defend himself, and his defense was him saying, "Well, look at how they were dressed." like that kind of.
How they were dressed.
Look at how they were dressed. They were asking for. That was his defense. And then more video. And then the craziest part was like all this was going on, and then like more video came out of him like days before the accusation happened, like at the very start of the event. Like an IRL streamer on Twitch was like walking around the convention and caught him on camera, and he saw the camera and he was like, "Oh, let's make some drama. Let's make some drama." And then he started trying to get up on another girl's ass, like as she's walking away, desperately trying to ignore him and stuff. So he knows what he's doing is wrong. He's just an asshole. But so that's the gist of what I was digging into, and the Kotaku story, which definitely read because it's way more thorough than what I just said. But the part that Kotaku didn't cover is that like a week ago, like before this, was another sexual assault case where this streamer whose name was most recently goes by Graphist, but it used to go by the name Black until he got banned off Twitch. Straight up tried to rape a girl in his house. Like he lived in a house with a bunch of streamers, and they had a party or something, and a girl got drunk and was like, "I'm going to bed. I'm closing the door. Nobody come in," and like went to bed. And then he rolled into the room and like assaulted her. And she filed originally. So this case happened in 2017. She filed a sexual assault claim against him, and his legion of fans like ran her off the internet. She got banned from Twitch because they filed reports against her, and like she didn't talk or like make any appearances for months. And she's only been like active again for the last 2 months. And all of a sudden, what happens is he admitted on camera for some reason that he absolutely did this. Like he was on stream, or he was in a video with somebody else, and like I didn't watch the whole video. I only saw the clip of him admitting it. But I don't know why it came up. Like, how does the conversation get to that? But he was like, "Oh yeah, no, I totally did it." And now since then, all of his accounts are made private, and like there's a bunch of like other accusations. It's up to like 6 different women or something like that are saying like he's assaulted them and stuff like that. And this was literally a week, like this all came to light a week before this other thing happened. These two guys aren't related. Like they were not living in the same house or anything.
Jeez. It's
just like, this is the community of this game. And like in defense of the community, the second that like these accusations came out, like most of the other streamers were like immediately backing up the women who were assaulted. They're like, no, this is bullshit. But the gross score thing came to a head when he started like yelling shit at another girl outside the convention, and like someone's little brother and stuff was like, "Hey, knock it off," and he got right up in this kid's face. So this other streamer was like, "You need to back the fuck off," and it turned into like a literal fist fight. And as soon as he jumped in, one of Gross Score's friends, I guess, grabbed him and threw him into the side of a moving car. The police got involved. It was like a whole thing.
This community sounds like an absolute hellhole.
So aside from the fact that all of these accusations and stuff are fucking disgusting and fuck these guys, the weirdest fact I found out about this is that Groscore doesn't even stream RuneScape anymore. Like he stopped streaming like 3 years ago. He switched to League of Legends. He does like other games. He doesn't really play RuneScape anymore. I don't understand why him and a bunch of these other people who don't even play it or stream the game were at this convention. Like he's not affiliated with RuneScape anymore. So he was, I guess, just there to hit on girls.
Probably just there to cause problems.
Probably this just there for the drama.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Like, so that sort of soured me on the game a little bit. Like, it's not the game's fault. The game just kind of sucks.
Yeah,
I was definitely looking for an excuse, and like this seems like a pretty good one if that's the community.
It just surprises me that I get there's clamoring for people to play like vanilla World of Warcraft servers and stuff like that. I just don't understand. We talked about this game being 17 years old. Like, have you been stuck as a person for those 17 years to just continue playing RuneScape? And obviously there's people there that weren't there at the start of the game, have gotten into the game since then and stuff like that. But it just seems to me that like if like playing a game that is that old that doesn't change, like especially for somebody that's been playing it for like however long,
not only doesn't change, but the player base is actively resistant to change.
Yeah,
like old school RuneScape exists because they came out with like an updated version of RuneScape, and there was like 2 sequels or something like that. I think made it up to like RuneScape 3, and they're both just dead because nobody wants them. Nobody wants any updates or anything like that.
Well, and I think that's where what I'm trying to say is like, you know, you're in a community that's so maliciously against change that like I feel like a lot of it has been stagnant for that long, right? Like if you're a fan of something that you don't want to change, you're probably not a huge fan of change, and you're probably not willing to change yourself. And I think now, especially with all of the nonsense that's been going on Twitch and stuff like that in 2018, that like now we're just seeing this stuff like bubble up to the head, like all these communities that were stuck on something like RuneScape that, you know, has like 14 pixels or, you know, not that many textures or whatever. We're now that like now people want to see these people that have been playing these games, or they know these names and stuff like that. It's starting to show some of the grossness of these communities. And I'm not saying RuneScape is by any means alone in sort of being a gross community around an old game. Like, I don't think you have to venture very far around the internet to find gross communities on anything.
No.
It's just that now some of these more popular people of these communities are being shown to the public, and their reaction is like, oh, I'm the victim here. You know, I'm being made to be into an asshole when this is what I've been for this long. When now that you have a platform that's public and people can see you and people can comment on you, it's now causing these sort of things to like bubble up to the top. Like, you know, I know what RuneScape is, and I've seen RuneScape being played, but I've never once heard about the community. But every time I hear about the community, it's always something gross. And this, again, this is not the RuneScape community. This is a guy who was a figurehead in the RuneScape community.
Yeah,
who sounds like he's not even in the RuneScape community anymore.
No, all of these people are people that don't even play the fucking game anymore, as far as I can tell. Like, have you guys ever heard of the streamer Ice Poseidon? Yeah, he's best known for getting swatted a bunch, I guess.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
He was at this show, and I'm not sure he's played RuneScape in like 8 years or something like that. Or streamed it, I should say. There's every chance that these guys still play it.
It's the equivalent of being you know, I was a high school quarterback and I was state champion.
Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah. So that's
fucking Scape, man.
That's been a whole thing.
Well, and I mean, it's a shame because who is going to be suffering the PR backlash of this in 2 weeks isn't him. Because, you know, the internet, he'll still have his fans and he can do whatever he wants. Twitch isn't, Twitch isn't going to ban him. He didn't do any of this stuff on Twitch.
Well, I mean, you say that, but he's been banned several times for stuff he's done off Twitch.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, so one of the big ones was when he had made the switch, specifically Growscore, when he had made the switch to League of Legends, he had become friends with a couple of shoutcasters, I think, or like a player and a shoutcaster. And there was an event in, I can't remember, somewhere in Europe, Brussels or Munich or something like that. And so they were all going overseas. Growscore paid a bunch of girls, like female streamers, to go with them, I guess expecting sex. And then they immediately realized he was a creep. And so they started hanging around with these other two guys, you know, the other esports athlete and the shoutcaster. And just totally ignoring him, and he lost his goddamn mind. He started accusing them of being pedophiles and rapists and stuff like that, and it turned into a whole thing. And this was back in 2016. He ended up banned from Twitch for that and made a new Twitch account, which I think is, he just put an IE into his name, so it's Grossy instead of Gross. And but yeah, that's him. Like, he just gets banned off Twitch, and he's an asshole and makes a new account, and then they just goes back and forth. He's just a shitty person. He's just a shit human being.
Yeah.
Seems like
sorry, RuneScape community, that you're like victimized by this week, but like that, and that's the thing is, like, you know, from the outside, most people just hear like, oh, this RuneScape streamer did this stuff, and everybody's like, well, RuneScape's old and whatever, like, I'm just going to ignore it more than I was ignoring it before. But at the end of the day, like, you know, in a year or two, when this guy does something else, or, you fans of his end up doing something because he got away with it, you know, it's not RuneScape that gets victimized, it's whoever they victimized. And like, you know, Twitch, I know this is like a much bigger topic for like a much bigger podcast, but like technically, like as long as people like Twitch and these events and stuff like that allow these sort of known drama creator characters to show up to these events, like this stuff is going to keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, so the counterpoint to that is while this was all going on, there's another streamer, not a RuneScape streamer, he's a speedrunner. His name's Trihex.
Yeah.
He's pretty popular in the speedrunning community. Super wholesome streams. He's gotten banned for like a month off Twitch because he was very excited and he called something queer, like in a derogatory term. Twitch banned him for vulgar language, and he immediately came out and like apologized. He's like immediately owned up to it. He was like, "What I said was wrong. I used to talk like that as a younger man. I've since grown past it, but old habits. I understand the ban, and I'm going to spend this time working to better myself so it doesn't happen again." He's banned for a month, and these two jagovs are still streaming.
Yeah.
You gotta love how just completely unequal the internet is, especially social media, and how that it never works out. It doesn't seem like it ever works out for the good.
So social media was a mistake. Social media
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and I hate to compare this at least a little bit to what ended up happening in Florida with the Madden event.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, we're now getting to a point where developers that are hosting cons or any form of like activities outside have to like know their community well enough to know what members of the community should not be showing up to these events and what sort of community members like are a risk of either harassment or violence or something like that while they're also planning this event. So you're adding like another burden onto these companies that used to just hold events as like fan events as a way for fans to meet each other, a way to talk to developers and stuff. Now you have to have an entire crew making sure that shitheads from your community don't come and ruin it for everybody. Like imagine going to like Minecon or whatever Minecraft's convention's called, you know, a convention that's specifically like made and geared towards children, but adults go to also because they like Minecraft and stuff. You imagine if one of these dudes, this like some creepy dude just showed up and started hitting on questionably aged girls at Minecon. Like it like in one aspect, yes, it's Microsoft's responsibility to make sure, or whoever these developers' responsibilities to make sure that like the event is safe and acceptable for everybody that's going to come and participate. But it also can't be on them to know that like, hey, this popular streamer also happens to be like really creepy with girls, or, you know, has an event towards violence if he starts drinking because maybe he doesn't drink on his stream and stuff like that. So you're asking now these organizers to put another burden of, you know, basically like community watch, but like their own community watch to make sure to prevent these people from participating and ruining things for others. And like, I don't know if that's necessarily fair to like the developers and organizers of these events. Like obviously security is another thing where if you're being belligerent in line or you have a weapon and stuff like that, like obviously that is a burden that must be brought up by the event organizers and event runners and stuff like that. But like, I can't scan somebody's badge and be like, oh, it says here you're a known shithead, so I can't let you in today. Like, you know, it's going to have to start happening because we're going to start, you know, the prevalence of 2018 of everybody's allowed to be a dickhead and absolutely no recourse for any of their dickheadness. That stuff's just going to start showing up in public more and more, and we're going to start hearing about it more and more.
Here's my thing, and I've thought this for a long fucking time. Ever since people started making the argument that streaming is a legitimate job, which it is, like you can't argue that it's not. The people who make a living off it are making a living off it the same way, say, a novelist makes a living off being a novelist. That's a job that a lot of people want, aren't going to get. Game journalism. A lot of people want that job. Not many people get paid for it. So it's definitely a job. My opinion has always been that the second that became a legitimate job and wasn't just like some weird thing that people were doing, that the people that are basically paying out money in, you know, in terms of Twitch makes ad revenue off viewers. the streamer gets a cut, Twitch gets a cut. As soon as this became a job with what is essentially an employer providing a workplace, they need to be the ones that regulate their employees. I could be fired. Like I'm sitting, we're streaming right now. I'm drinking on the job. If I was drinking on my actual day job, I would get fired. If I harassed any of my customers,
I'm a very lenient boss.
If I harassed any of my customers, I would get fired. Like there are lines that you don't cross as an employee. These people are employees. If they're crossing these lines, regardless of whether it's happening or not on stream, I think it's on Twitch that they need to cut ties with these people.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're a Twitch partner. If you have that stupid icon or whatever they do to denote that you are like a special snowflake amongst all the snowflakes on Twitch, like you are representing a company. And as a company, if you are acting foolish, I should be able to remove you and remove any source of funding or help or support that you get from me. You know, like as you said, like, you know, if I'm drinking in the middle of my job and I get fired, like that's on me because I made poor choices and I clearly knew that my employer made it very well known that, hey, you can't be drunk while you're working here. And, you know, there are people that like try to follow Twitch's guidelines to like the letter of the law. And, you know, when incidents happen and Twitch goes, okay, well, this is the first time we're dealing with this. So like, you know, you guys aren't going to necessarily get hugely in trouble. Like, I understand that stuff. But like, if you're blatantly breaking rules, whether you're on the streaming platform or anywhere, you know, even on Twitter, you still probably have your like Twitch affiliated like stamp and a link to your Twitch account. Like you're still representing Twitch on your Twitter account. Even though it's your Twitter account, you're still verified through Twitch. And that's a way you're communicating to customers of your product for Twitch. So, you know, if you use a racial slur over there or you do something, Twitch should have the full right to be able to pull your partnership status and ban you from ever coming on again.
Yeah, basically getting that partnership badge means you're an employee of Twitch.
Yeah. Oh, I should quickly toss this in because I made a factual error earlier. Groscore also now has a private Twitter account.
Okay.
He's now locked his account. There was a whole thing with that, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this. I've been playing Minute, Mega Man 11, Arena of Valor, back to Dead Space 3. Mega Man is going to be getting a live-action Hollywood film. Capcom's also confirmed that Monster Hunter is coming to live-action. Microsoft has announced Project X Cloud game streaming, which is going to be kind of their online game streaming thing. Google is also doing game streaming through Chrome. Brand new Star Citizen trailer with Mark Hamill's in there. Borderlands 2 VR was announced. Isn't that kind of crazy? We finally figured out what the Meltan is. Nintendo has showed the latest video for Pokemon Go. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys on the next side quest.
Dally got shit to do.
You can find me at Dolly Demowski. You can find us at SideQuesting, sidequesting.com, Twitch, YouTube, SideQuesting TV, blah, blah, blah. You can find Sam tweeting about playing Forza Horizon 4 at...
Dolly's 4 minutes late.
I know. When he said he had a hard out of 10:15, and I looked at the clock and I was still talking.
You're like,
about
no, I'm gonna fuck him.
At like 9:45. I was like, oh man, we're going over that time. Yeah, you can find me at SamDI79 at thetwitter.com. I don't know what the last thing I tweeted was. I'm trying to find out. Oh, yes, this important piece of information. Where somewhere out there is a person who thinks Desert Rose is the best song that Sting has to offer. We don't have enough time. We would need a whole podcast to talk about Desert Rose. But let's talk about a song that came out in 1999, pre 9/11, has lyrics by an Arabic singer in Arabic. Everybody loved it. It was a #1 hit. Fucking Buck Wild, 1999. All right, go ahead.
If you'd like to see more of Sam's tweets, just follow that at SideQuesting on Twitter because we retweet everything Sam tweets. Aaron, where can we find you?
You can find me at ScrattyBones on Twitter. You can find me at ScrattyBones on Twitch. I don't have any recent reviews on SideQuesting right now. I'm sure something's coming along down the pipe. I wonder why.
Oops, sorry about that. I'm old and I forgot that you were going to review COD Blops and Tom's getting it. Whenever they send it over, Tom will get it. I totally forgot about that. I'll get you something else. I promise. With that, we'll see you guys in the next SideQuest. Love you. Bye. Ryan Gant sucks.
Jeff Grubb.